Hi YouTube. This video is going to be a presentation video for the Colt Official Police. I had a lot of questions about this gun from my striker fired video. A lot of people had never heard about it, never seen it, and they were kind of wondering about its history. Well, I can tell you that this gun was actually originally introduced as the Colt Army Special. The purpose was that it would be adopted by the US Army, but that didn't happen. Before we talk about why, we actually have to talk about a different wheel gun, which is the Colt New Army and New Navy. So these guns were actually chambered in 38 long Colt for the military market and specified in a 6-inch barrel configuration. For the civilian market, you could get it in 3, 4, 5, or 6-inch barrel configurations. You could also get it chambered in 41 long Colt, 32-30, and way down the line 38 Special. So when the new Army and new Navy was introduced, the US Navy did adopt the gun immediately in 1889. However, the US Army actually held off for 3 years. And I think the reason why is because the new Army and new Navy didn't have locking notches.
What? I'm out, man. That nigga's tripping.
If you look at any wheel gun, okay, any revolver, you're going to see right here and right there, all around the cylinder, there are indentations and they're called locking notches. Okay, their job is to make sure the cylinder doesn't move at rest. All right, there are 3 times where the cylinder isn't supposed to move: when the gun is resting, when the gun is about to fire, and when the gun fires. It doesn't move, right? Now, for Colt not to put locking notches on the US, the new Navy and new Army, what do you think was going to happen? Okay, so basically, as you run around, the cylinder's doing this. It's doing that the whole time, right? So let's say you're in battle and you take out 2 enemy targets. Good job. Now the enemy has new backup. They've taken new position, new cover. You got to take new position, new cover. You do that. You get a clear shot. You go take a shot, and then you get a click, no bang, right? And why? Because while you're running around, the cylinder's moving around, and your bad luck, it just happened to fall on the chamber where you already shot around. As you can see, that's kind of a big problem.
Maybe.
I'm not really sure what Colt was thinking when they released that, but they did realize the error of their ways, and they did put locking notches on the new Army and new Navy, at which point the US Army was happy to adopt the gun in 1892. The second is that the lockwork system of the new Army and new Navy was incredibly complex, very difficult to work with. A lot of gunsmiths would open it up, look at it, and say, hell no, I don't want to touch it. Very difficult to work on. Granted, Colts are kind of like that, but it just seemed that with the new Army and new Navy, it was tenfold more so. Definitely something that nobody wanted to work on. And the mechanism itself was very fragile to a degree. You really couldn't use it the way a military man would use the weapon. You really had to baby it in order to make sure that it would function effectively. So as you can see, that's already not a good start for a weapon that's supposed to be a military weapon that should be very durable, very rugged, and to be reliable in the instance of combat. Now, the event that really took 38 caliber out of any consideration for the US Army was the Philippine-American War. So at this point, about 1890s, Philippine was under colonization of Spain. And Spain had to fight war against the Filipinos. They also had to fight a war against the Moros people, which they were Filipino too, but they were kind of like a religious, extremist religious sect for Islam. They kind of just looked after their own people. So they were Filipino too, but they were not on the Philippine nationalist side. They were kind of their own side. So we literally have kind of a 3-way war going on. And so after many battles, the Spain finally got tired. They got fed up. They said, hey, we don't want to do this anymore. And they actually ceded control of the Philippines to us. They actually ceded it to us, America. And so, of course, at that time, the UN has to go through a bunch of technical work. But regardless, the Filipinos said, no, we're not going to go with this. You know, we want independence from Spain. We're not going to accept American colonizers, so they wanted to fight back. And of course, the Moros are always willing to fight back. And so instead of a three-way war between Spain, Philippines, and Moros people, it just became a three-way war between America, Philippines, and the Moros people. So that was already kind of a big problem to deal with. And one thing about the Moros people, which was a real problem, was that they had a tendency to have this sort of drug concoction that made them pretty close to bulletproof. They could take lots of shots before they went down, and they could kill one or two army men before they went down with machetes. It wasn't a good trade-off. It was very common for people to relay stories about hitting a Moros person, attacker, with 6 shots, a 38 long Colt, but the guy was still able to kill 2 army men. So that is a very big crisis, especially in a three-way war where, anybody that folds immediately is up for grabs. Paper alliances are very common in three-way wars, and you do not want to lose your position. If we looked like that we couldn't handle our own, then the Filipinos and the Moros would have teamed up, went against us, and then the next day they'd backstab each other. So it was something that we really could not lose. All right, but with 38 long Colt not being effective, we really didn't have too many options. So what the U.S. commanders decided to do was that they actually brought out an oldie but a goodie. It is the 1873 Colt SAA, or Single Action Army. They thought that with the Colt using a 45 caliber bullet, that might do more damage against the Moros people than the 38 long Colt did. Now, I don't have a 38 long Colt snap cap, I have a 38 special, but it's basically evolved from that, and I have a 45 Colt snap cap. And as you can see, the 45 is a lot bigger than the 38. And it was also an additional about 250 feet per second. It was a little bit more powerful too. And the gambit paid off. The U.S. Army was correct. The Colt SAA, along with the Winchester 1897 pump action shotgun, was able to put down the Moros people, securing our position and not having anybody think any funny business. And as you can see, that was the event that pretty much shook the faith the U.S. Army had ever in considering a 38 caliber bullet. That's why they never looked at or even considered the 38, the Colt Army Special. Granted, 38 Special is about 400 feet per second stronger than the long Colt, but again, with the event of the Moros people doing severe damage against the Colt New Army and New Navy, it's kind of understandable that they would not consider 38 Special ever again. In fact, they stuck along with the 45 Colt. In 1909, they took Colt's new service revolver, which was a large frame revolver made in 45 long Colt, and 2 years later they would adopt the 1911. So I think this event pretty much kind of sealed its fate in regards to the U.S. Army only sticking with 45 Colt, and at least until when the Beretta M9 showed up on the scene. Now with the history complete, we can now talk about the actual gun itself. So as I said, this is the second iteration. The first was the Army Special, and the Army Special had the rounded front sight or half moon sight. It also had a checkered hammer, checkered trigger, and a checkered cylinder release, and it came with rubber grips. Now, this Official Police is actually a 1940 Colt Official Police. It had the configurations that I explained for the Army Special, but it also had a second configuration where it would have kind of a serrated ramp front sight, and it would a different cut grooved on the hammer, a little bit thinner, and then also there was no checkering on the trigger or the cylinder release. Now, in regards to the trigger pull, single action, I believe it's about 3.2 pounds, so it's pretty nice. Double action, it's about 9 pounds. 9 pound trigger. Again, of course, Colts are known for their stacking triggers. Um, that's pretty nice too. Although I will say it's got a little bit of a, I don't know how you'd say, it's like a really kind of an odd like slip in it. So basically, when I'm shooting, right, I when I'm going to the double action, I can almost kind of tell that there's kind of like this this smooth space, and it kind of throws off my aim a little bit. I don't know. That's the only Colt I've ever seen that. Every other Colt has been good. Python, Cobra, it's been no problem. But I just noticed that the trigger with the double action with this one just has a really odd. There's like an odd space in between where it's almost too nice, and so I kind of lose a little bit of my aim. Now, going back to the single action trigger, I would say that there is no over travel, and the double action also has no over travel, so that's pretty good. Again, I think the single action was about 3.2 pounds pull, and the double action was about maybe 9.2 pounds pull. Um, they seem like pretty good numbers to me. I don't have a problem with it. Now, supposedly, a lot of people say that the Colt Official Police has an action very similar to a Python and that it could be tuned to Python levels. Now, I've only had two Pythons in my life. This one is a 1966 Colt Python. I also had a 1977, but I sold that one. But I can tell you that the double action trigger of the 1977 was amazing. That was the best I've ever felt. Now, this 1966 is not as nice. I mean, I'm sure I could hit my target, but it just didn't feel like the 1977 version. And honestly, if there's a way to get the Colt Official Police to have an action like the Python, I think that would be amazing. I'd be more than happy to do that, to pay for that. Now, I'm not aware of who does that. I'm guessing probably Cylinder and Slide, but I think were set about $230, and I would pay for that. But I don't know. Maybe you guys know. Is there another place that they can change a official police action similar to that of a Python? Because like I said, 250 is about probably the most I'd pay for it. And like I said, I don't really like the trigger here anyways because it has that really weird, that really weird smooth step in the middle of the double action trigger. But if you guys know anybody that can do that, hey, just let me know. I'm willing to pay for that because I bought this gun as a fighting gun, but if I don't like the double action, then it doesn't really serve as a fighting gun, right? It's just kind of there until I can figure out what to do with it. Well, that's it for the Colt Official Police. I hope that the history was interesting to you. I certainly enjoyed reading about it. So what do you guys think? Do you think you'll probably get a Colt Official Police yourself? Would you get the first or second variation? Or maybe you'd go after the Army Special. The only reason I didn't go for the Army Special was because of the rubber grip. I really like the way rubber grips look on guns. That's why I just went with this one. But I hope that was interesting for you guys. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you have any questions, comments, you can leave them below or message me on Instagram. Other than that, you guys take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye.